Okay, so this video isn't quite the same as some of my other instructional videos. I'm primarily recording it for the sake of students on my chairmaking course. And there's a lot, as you can see, there's a lot of curves on it, so we're going to be doing quite a lot of spokeshave work. And on the last time the chairmaking course met, I didn't have enough time to go into enough detail on the spoke shaving, so I thought I'd just do this little video about it and issue it on my channel so other people can see. I'm not planning on doing a lot of editing on it, so the production values won't be quite as high as the fairly low production value on my other videos. And the idea is we'll just have a look at some different types of spoke shaves, and then I'll get on and do a few of the curves on the chair, just to sort of show how we use a spoke shave and what things you've got to be sensitive to. Anyway, let's get going. So this is a selection of some of the spoke shaves I have. It's not all of them because some of them I've lent to the students so they can be working with them before the next session. These are sort of the box standard metal style spoke shaves. I don't have any of the Western wooden style ones. I do have one wooden one here, which I'll talk about in a minute. Of these metal ones, they usually come in two different models. There's the one with a flat sole, which would be used for doing convex surfaces, so you'd be working, for instance, on this piece which is curved, you'd be able to work in that direction. And then you have the other style, which has a convex sole, so it's not flat, and that would then be used on working concave surfaces. You know, it's sort of the reverse of the curve that you're working. Yeah. And this is another. These two that I've just shown you have an adjustment facility. There's these little knobs where you can do fine adjustment. This one here is a little bit more basic, and to adjust that you can either sort of tap the blade, or you can also sort of tap the spoke shave on the side of the bench, just to do very slight adjustment. And then the other one I have it is a wooden one, but it's not quite like the sort of Western style wooden ones. This is from Taiwan. It's made by a company called Mujin Fang, which used to be the supplier in England was Workshop Heaven. Unfortunately, I don't think Mujin Fang are actually producing these anymore. But they are nice, beautiful little tool. Lovely to sort of hold in the hand. I think they're ebony, and they've got the old style blade where you've got these two tangs that fit into the holder, and we'll be using that later on. One thing about spoke shaving, it is you do have to be very sensitive to the timber. You know, it's one of the tools which make you realise just how complex timber can be, because all the time you're working it, you're in very close contact with the wood, and you have to be always sort of be thinking about which way the grain direction is going, how the blade's cutting. You know, am I cutting deep enough, and all that sort of thing. More so than possibly with an ordinary plane or something like that, or a saw. It does make you sort of really get down to it and really think about what wood's all about. Anyway, let's start doing a bit of spoke shaving. This is the leg we were working on in the last session, so it's been curved. We use the router and the template to put the curve on. But we also need to introduce these faces that narrow it down at the top. So I think most of you actually did the band sawing the last session, and then we need to clean up these faces. So I plane these faces down with a hand plane, so we then taper down to a sort of more or less a square at the end there, and we have to actually establish what sort of profile we want to have at the top there. So I've actually used this little washer here just to mark off a circle there, and another one on this side. So that's something like the sort of profile I'm working to. Now, obviously, to a certain extent, it's a matter of taste, what profile you use. You might want to have a slightly smaller radius on these corners and bigger flat there. I'll sort of talk about that later in the notes. So if we now put it in the vise and we'll get ready to actually shave it. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit. Right. So, because we're planing a convex surface, I'm going to be using the flat bottom plane here. And normally I'd use the shave to working away from me. In fact, Stanley or Record, I think it's a Record one, Stanley one, this one, they provide very nice little pads there for your thumbs to sit on, so it's very convenient to actually work. And what I'm looking to do is to create a flat that comes down and meets this curve I've marked on there, and I'm just working at the top end at the moment, because we don't want to come too far down. We want to stop at this joint here. So I'm just starting up here, and I'm just going to work a flat that just meets that curve that I marked. There we go, almost there. We'll do the same on the other side. Now you obviously wouldn't be able to do this with a flat bottom plane because it would just jump around on this curve. When I say a flat bottom plane, I mean something like a block plane, as opposed to a flat bottom spokeshave. As you can see, I've got a flat there that's almost touching that curve. Okay, so, and I'm not taking it too far down. Now, on this chair that I'm making, I haven't actually got arms coming in. On the chair that you're making, we're going to have an arm coming in here. So we need to make sure that we don't put too much shaping around the edge here. We want the shaping to sort of taper off fairly quickly on yours. I can take mine a bit further down if I wanted, but I'll work on this one as if I was doing yours. So I'm not going to take my shaping that much further down than that. I might just sort of slightly arras these corners here, but we don't want to have sort of shaping going round where we're going to have the arm coming in, because it just makes life complicated. So I've got these two faces that are sort of more or less meeting that curve there. Now I want to actually sort of introduce another face, so we're going to end up with multiple faces. So I'm just taking off the points like that. And these say you need a very sharp plane spokeshave for this. I will talk briefly about sharpening at the end. So now we're beginning to get a bit more of a curve here, you know, sort of a refined rounding. What I'm looking for is a sort of bit of a rounding and a bit of a flat face here. I'm just going to take that like that. So it just gives a bit of interest if you've got a little bit of a flat there, rather than being a total curve all around. But as I say, it is a matter of aesthetics, whatever floats your boat really. Right, that's not feeling too bad now. Basically what I've been trying to do is create more and more faces until the faces get all blend into one. Right, that's not too bad. I might just take a shaving around there as well. You can see it's got a nice sharp blade at the moment, so we can achieve that. The other thing is, talking about grain direction, obviously we've introduced a curve into this leg here, so if I turn it round a bit, you can see we've got grain direction like that, so it would be impossible for us to work it in that direction, because our grain is going across like that. So that's why I'm sort of feeding it this way. Now if I was to sort of work this front curve here further down, there will come a point where it just won't work this way. Let's have a look. I'll work this face all the way down and then see what happens. When you get that sort of juddering, it can be worth just angling the shave slightly. The other thing you've got to be aware of is your square one. The other thing you've got to be careful about is, if you're doing this shaping on the front here, is to make sure that you've got it nice and square. So you come around here, and a little bit, there we are. It's starting to. At this point, the grain direction has changed, so I need to turn it around now and work the other way. And I find it quite useful to sort of just get my, can you see how I've got my fingers either side, so it's sort of controlling the path of the shave. Back off a little bit. That's better. Right. Okay, so that's a nice flat there. I've previously planed these surfaces with a obviously a hand plane. I can also do the back as well. I'm going to this might go out of the picture a bit here. I might have to change the camera a bit. There we go. So now we've got a concave surface. So theoretically, we would be using this spokeshave here because this one's got the convex sole on it. But you can actually get away with sort of gentle curves. You can actually get away with using the flat soled one, and I find the flat soled one is more stable than the curved soled one, because the curved soled one sort of rocks up and down on that curve. So usually you can actually get a cut. I might be proved wrong here, but we'll see. There we go. It's a bit biased at the moment. So I'm just adjusting these knobs either side to get an even cut all the way across. Ugh. I've got a little bit of a problem because there's a little ripply bit there which is causing the grain to be a bit temperamental. As I say, spoke shaving does mean you have to be aware of the grain at all times. Oh, come on. Basically I'm doing this just to get rid of the machining marks from where we did the shaping with the router. The other thing we need to do is to put a very slight arris on these back corners and also on these corners here as well, you know, because we put this rounding up the top here, but we also need to put a very slight arris on the other corners. And this is where this little Mujin Fang shave comes in really useful. Now I'm almost out of picture up here, but I'll be down at that end in a minute. And you see how beautiful that cuts. As you can tell, I'm rather in love with this tool. So I'm probably coming to the change in grain direction here, so I might have to turn it around in a minute. There we go. So again, I'm using it pushing away from me. You can use it that way, but I never find it quite works quite so well. But then, as I say before, anything that, whatever floats your boat really. I think that's better doing pushing away anyway. Just that little bit there. Right, so that's feeling quite nice now. A little bit rough there, we've got that grain problem. Let's try and do a little bit more there. But the truth is, my blade's a little bit blunt, I think. It could do with sharpening. But I don't want to break off filming to do it. Right, okay, so a little bit of arrowing on here. So there is enough room to sort of put a bit of arrowing on here. I just prefer going that way. Yeah, there's a room to put a little bit of an arrow here if you're getting the arm in there, but you can't bring this rounding any further down. Run all the way up here. Now, our students won't have one of these Moon Fang ones, but if they want to drop me an email, I'll send one over to them, because I think Matthew Platt at Workshop Heaven did send me another one, so I've got a spare if you want to borrow one for. Right, now you could do this with one of these, but I just find these are quite nice to use. One final thing, which isn't really spoke shaving, or doesn't have to be spoke shaving, it's worth putting a little arris on the bottom of the leg as well while you're at it. Now, probably easier with a block plane, but I've got the spoke shave in my hand, so I'm using that. There we are. That helps to prevent any splitting at the bottom of the leg if the chair was dragged across a hard floor. And that's round about it for shaving that. It's actually, no, it's not quite actually. These I can still feel the remains of the micro faces that I created there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a scraper. Now, a scraper is another one of those tools where you have to be a bit sensitive to, the way the tool's working and things. So I'm just feeling for what's going on there. The grain's a bit stiffy there. I'm just looking to see the way the grain's reacting to the tool, whether it's coming up a bit rough or not. That's not so bad. I'm just going to give it a bit of sand now just to blend it all together. Right. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah, a little bit down there. Right. One thing, there's obviously going to be another leg to this chair, another back leg to this chair, and we want them to be pretty much symmetrical. So one thing you can do to test them is, once you've done one of them, once you're doing the second one, you can then compare the two together by just offering them up like that. So I've taken the other one and put it together, and this one is actually feeling a little bit bigger than that one, so the actual roundings are sitting a little bit proud, so I might have to actually take a little bit more off them. So I was a bit premature in my smoothing. So let's have a little look at doing the front leg. So this is the front leg, and we've got the dowel there for the arm rail to come in. In fact, this is a mock-up of the front leg, because my chair that I'm making doesn't have arms. Yours will do. And we talked at the last session of using, oops, that's the wrong one, using a washer. Where's it going? Yeah, I'm back. I had the wrong washer. We talked in the last session of using a washer to give us the size of the top, because we wanted the top of the leg to be 25mm, and it just happens we've got a 25mm washer here with a 10mm centre hole on it, and we've got a 10mm dowel there, so we can actually just offer that up, and that we can then mark on the position of that washer to work to. So basically, to form that circular top. Just for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to do the top edge, the top two surfaces, rather than go through the whole rigmarole. So I'm going to use a block plane to start with, and then we'll bring in the spoke shave in a minute. So I'm wanting to work from here. This is where our seat joint would be, up to here, so I don't want to bring the shaping any further down than that, other than a little bit of arrowing. So we're doing the same as before. We're just forming a face down to that circle that we've marked. And same on this side. And then we're going to form another face, sort of like a micro face, on the corners of the sort of octagon that we form, or the putative octagon, if you can have a putative octagon. The same there and there. And we're starting to get... Now, I could carry on with the block plane, but it can be quite useful to do it with a spoke shave. I have to tip it up a little bit. There we go. Because the spoke shave, especially if I set it a bit finer, so I'm just backing the blade off a little bit. The spoke shave, you can be a lot more sensitive to. You see how I'm turning it all the time, changing the angle all the time, and I think you're more sensitive to that using a spoke shave than you are with a block plane. Still cutting a bit coarse. Back it off a little bit more. Oh, come on. I probably won't cut at all now. There we go, that's a bit finer. So we're beginning to form a sort of circular top there. I might actually turn it over and do the other side as well. Let's do that, come on in. That was a bit skewed, that flat, never mind. Now let's take a few more of the block plane first. So you can actually see that the spoke shave doesn't have to be working just curves that way. It can be useful for doing sort of rounding as well on a flat, you know, a flat rounding, if you know what I mean. Just by creating lots of faces. I think it's because you're holding either side, whereas that you're holding it there. With this one, you're holding either side, so you've got more control in that direction. I'm going to turn this that way, I think. So what it should end up with is a sort of a flat surface here that slowly tapers and tapers and tapers until it disappears with the rounding here. This is a little. I could do with this being a little bit. Let's move it forward a bit. I might have to change, move the camera again. Move the camera back a bit. There we go. That gives me a bit more room. No, I can't move it forward. So you can see we're getting quite a good shaping there. I've got a bit of a flat at the back there. Let's turn it round, have a look. Yeah. That's getting close. I could give it a bit of a scrape as well. So that's quite well blended now. So and then what I'm looking for is a sort of a nice, smooth, similar with the back legs as well. A nice, smooth, continuous face around there. No sort of little faces or little points. So it's a continuous curve all round, like a curved face. And then with also this sort of tapering out of that flat there. But as I said before, a lot of this is going to be up to you with getting the sort of nuance that you particularly want, you know. That's not feeling so bad now. There's a little high spot there. Yeah. Okay, I think that's probably as good as we're going to get. Bearing in mind it is just an example piece. It's not actually a leg I'm actually going to be putting in my chair, because I'm making a couple of chairs alongside the students on the chair making session. But mine don't have arms, whereas theirs are sort of like carvers with arms. Okay, I'm sort of fairly pleased with that. The last thing is I'll just a little mention about how to hold these blades for sharpening, because they are quite small, so it does make your life a little bit tricky. How do you hold a blade that small to hone it and grind it and things? So, as I said, it's quite tricky holding a small blade like that at the correct angle. So what you can do is obviously take the blade out and then make up just a wooden block like this with a saw cut in. So I've got a saw cut there, which will take. I've got a slightly thicker cut at one end from the other, because these blades, the blade in this spoke shave is slightly thicker than the one in the blue spoke shave. So I think this is the right slot. So you can just insert the blade into that slot, and I can just push it down like that. And then away we go. We can then hold it a lot more easily to get the right angle to hone it at. assuming freehand honing. And then, as I say, the blade in this one is a lot thicker. You can see there are two different thicknesses there. Can't really see. Then just insert that blade in the other end. So I've obviously cut these two saw curves with different size, different saws. So that's probably been done with the tenon saw. Where this one's been done with a thicker rip style panel saw. For this little Wu Fin Yang one, you need to move the blade, and not sure how you're going to hold that one. These tangs actually are quite easy, quite good for holding, and you possibly even make some sort of jig for the tangs to fit into. But I do actually find that they are pretty good. You can hold on to them like that and actually work on the edge of a stone. So I've got a water stone here. Obviously it wouldn't work in them like that because the tangs get in the way, but if you tilt the stone over, then you can actually work it like that. Obviously it takes a bit of practice to get the right angle for the honing angle. If you, as with sharpening a chisel or something, you can actually find the ground angle and then just lift it slightly from that angle and then turn it over to polish the other side. Okay, so hopefully you'll have got all your curving and spoke shaving done in time for the next session when we'll be doing the crest rail. For those of you not on the course, if you have been, thanks for listening.